So I'm reading the script, and there's only 2 copies of the script, and I'm reading it a couple months before we start shooting. And you have to go to the office, and there's, like I said, 2 copies of the script. One's in a safe, and you have to check out one. You have to read it at the office. I was working on Pretty Little Liars at the time. We had a lot of late calls, so I would go in and read like 2 hours of the script and then go to work. And I'm reading through the script, and Man in Urinal comes out, and he's got a snarky line, and I'm a bit of a snarky guy. David and I always connected on our sense of humor. It's, odd and fun. So I started the wheels turning about, okay, I want to play Man in Urinal. Because that's the perfect part for me. I'm not an actor. I have acted, but I'm not an actor. And David, he knows I'm reasonably amusing. And so I started putting the word out to everybody on set that I want to play Man in Urinal. I hear people. And finally, about 2 weeks before we're about to shoot that, Johanna Ray, the casting director, our amazing casting director, came up to David and she was talking about, who's going to play Man in Urinal. And Corey Glazer, our script supervisor, amazing, was sitting there with David at the monitor, and she goes, well, Malone wants to play that part. And David looks over at me, and I'm like, I want to do Man in Urinal. And Joanna looks at me, and Joanna knew me pretty well. So David looks at me and nods a little, and he goes, yeah, okay, man, yeah. I said, yeah, great, okay. So I've got the part at that point. Then, about a week before we shot it, I go up to David and I said, David, don't you think the Man in Urinal should be wearing a seersucker suit? He goes, yeah, man. That sounds great, yeah. So, go to wardrobe trailer, get fitted for a seersucker suit. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, God, I hope Sabrina lets me keep the seersucker suit after shooting's over. Sure enough, she did. And I didn't think my line reading in there, even though I was Tom Sizemore, I didn't think my line reading was that great, but I came out of the bathroom and David and everybody was like, yeah, terrific, okay. And then I got ushered off to the wardrobe trailer, out of the seersucker suit, and the rest is history. And here we are.
I'm so glad you got to keep that suit. Let's give it up for Sabrina for letting Malone keep the suit.
Sabrina is very nice. She's a very nice person.
Thank you. Somebody gives you a chair, take it. You're sitting right here and you just talked to me. You play a character in this show that feels so, like the opposite of everything we love about Twin Peaks. He's eating like a microwaved, like 6 microwaved lunch things. He's gonna shoot Andy at some point. What was that like, just like fully leaning into somebody like Chad? Because you're a really nice guy. I met you a few years ago and it was really jarring, like because you're just so, Chad is so hateable.
Thank you. That's actually a good question. Because, just before I arrived in Snoqualmie, Catherine had died. And I had to say these horrible things about her. I had to disparage her. And it sort of clicked, in my head that sort of whatever's beautiful, make it ugly, kind of, I think is what I was doing with Chad. So when we were in the cell and Jay and Naya were going back and forth, I was absolutely mesmerized by that. That was such an incredibly transportive, beautiful thing. So I just made it ugly.
Well, I think what makes all the villains in Twin Peaks so great is there's a level of humanity to it. Like I just think this like guy is just like, yeah, that's just like another sicko that just somehow, you know, the fucking Black Lodge is just oozing into this guy's body. I'm just gonna keep jumping around. You know, Mike just mentioned there were only 2 copies of the script. I mean, like, I think it's just kind of, I guess, a point of conversation, not really a question as much, but for Scott and Sabrina, like, you know, it's such a feat, like, producing and scheduling and like coordinating something like this, like a 500+ page feature film that a bunch of sickos like me wanted to read. Like the fact that it's never come out or leaked or anything is just amazing. Can you talk a little bit about just that process of making something that's like this unwieldy and required that much like sensitivity and kind of secrecy, I guess?
Well, I can say that we treated it like a feature film. So we, you know, rather than like in television where you do each episode individually, we did all the pre-production up front. We started shooting, we shot the whole thing, and then we did the editing, and then we delivered it. So it was just a big giant film, and we put one foot in front of the other, right, Scott?
That's right.
The script I read 2 months before shooting was like 420 pages, which, you know, is about 2 hours or 3-4 hours, roughly, of screen time. But you could see as we were shooting that the script on Corey Glazer, our script supervisor's notebook, just kept getting thicker and thicker, and just adding more and more stuff.
Yeah,
David was writing as he was going.
Yeah, we would write every night, so.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious if, because you both worked on, Scott and Sabrina, you both worked on Inland Empire, and like, did that feel like, was there anything similar to that, like that sort of direct, because I know obviously David and Mark wrote a lot together, like over the course of many years, but it does sound like at a certain point it was just David just really kind of going rogue in the wild, wild west, to quote Lissy. People liked that, yeah. I don't know, that wasn't a question either. I'm really good at this. They keep asking me to do it, and I never ask a question. But yeah, I guess, did it feel like that process, that kind of organic process, like Inland Empire did?
No, unfortunately. David would like to have had it like that, but it was quite it was showtime, and we had unions, and we had a giant footprint, as he would remind us every day, and he wasn't able to experiment, so, you know, it was not like Inland Empire in that respect. But for the script, you know, there was a good amount of the script. With Inland Empire, that was a little, you know, it grew as it went, and that one took years. You know, this script was pretty much written before we started shooting, but then, of course, more was added as we went along. But Scott Cameron had the lovely chore of trying to schedule everything. How did you do that, Scott?
It was a giant script, like this fat. And, boy, I'm on the spot a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit about what it was like to work for almost 40 years with David Lynch.
Yeah.
Please do that.
David made this tribute for a French television called The Cowboy and the Frenchman. Real David Lynch fans may have seen it. And that's the first thing I worked with David on, and most of his projects after. And it was like working with a family. And we had so much love. Brave on the first Twin Peaks, we've known each other for years. Malone with us. Duwayne since, wild at heart, yeah. And so there's so much love that comes from David, from all the people that he works with, particularly his actors. He just pours so much into it. Chrystabell? True. He pours so much into it. And all of us around him, we just get brought into this process. And it's wonderful. It's masterful. And I just want to say how grateful I am to have had that much contact with a really beautiful, beautiful man.
It really is the thing I think you feel in this more than anything he ever did is just the accumulation of just how many people, and the continuity too of people behind the scenes and in front of the camera that were there from the beginning. It's really what a thing to share as an artist. It's so beautiful. Speaking of Chrystabell, you are incredible in The Return. Just one of like Tammy Preston. I just think about like the way she moves all the time. It's like a velociraptor shark. Like it's so just the coolest character of all time, maybe? I don't know. I really am obsessed with Tammy Preston, and I want to know, like, because you had collaborated with David before working together on this. What was it like coming to, because this was your first role too, right? Like, what was it like coming with that collaboration to a project like this and stepping into something that you hadn't done before?
Well, it was horrifying because you want so much to be you want so much to be a part of something that's so meaningful to people, but you also don't want to bring anything to it that could somehow not be what people wanted, right? Like that's your biggest fear. But when you have David Lynch telling you that he wants you to do something and that he believes in you and that it's your destiny, you say yes. And that's it. You just say yes. And then whatever happens is whatever happens. And you've in my case, it was overcoming a fear and then feeling like once I had done it, I could pretty much do anything. And that was yet another gift of Twin Peaks. That it's endless gifts from Twin Peaks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, she's really like, I remember when the show aired, it really, seeing fan reactions that goes along, like, when's Coop coming back? When's Coop coming back? When's Coop coming back? And it was like, Tammy just felt like Coop to me because it's like, she's so like enthusiastic about the law and like being in the FBI in this like same just very like laser focused, like wild-eyed way that's just so, I don't know. It's just such a you're just such an important part of the canon, and I'm so grateful.
Tammy was passionate. She was definitely passionate, and she showed up ready for whatever was about to happen, and I appreciated that about her.
Yes.
Thank you, Vera.
Okay, moving back to behind the scenes. Mr. Dunham, you are just like one of my heroes. This is the Chris Farley part of you've worked on so many cool things that like are in my blood. Homeward Bound. I gotta know, because like the post-production process of this seems so fascinating, just because the sheer amount of like footage shot, I'm sure. Can you talk a little bit about, and I know David was obviously probably really hands-on too in post-production with sound and video, I'm assuming, but can we hear a little bit about what that process was like and working with some of the additional editors and yeah.
Well, David had a really great cappuccino machine. And my assistant, Matthias, I think you guys started shooting in early September. Sound about right? Sometime around the beginning of November, Matthias, my assistant, came to me, and it was just the two of us up at the studio. And he said, you know that machine in there has a counter on it. I said, I didn't know that. He said, well, it does. And I set it to 0 on the day we came in here. And it's also programmed, it only does a double shot, not a single shot. And he says, you have any idea how many cappuccinos we've had since September? 2 months? It was almost 2,000. So, what was it like?
Jittery?
Everybody's talked a lot about the script, and this is, honestly, this is the only show I've ever worked on that I had the script next to me. It was just too big. I did a lot of work with Lucas. His advice was you get to the cutting room, you throw the script away. And back on Blue Velvet, David wanted to see a scene, and I ran it for him, and he said, well, it's not quite like it was written. And I said, okay, so? And he says, so could we just try it once, how it was written? And I said, why would we do that? And he says, well, just give me the script. I said, I don't have it. He says, well, where is it? I said, I threw it away. and that was kind of our relationship. But I will tell you that I gotta say this, I so appreciate Scott's words, and I think all of us could talk about David, how he touched our lives, how we miss him. Sometimes some people ask me, what was it like working with Lucas and Lynch, and are they so different or similar? And I answer it this way, and I hope you understand what the meaning is. I said I worked 7 years with George Lucas, and he taught me how to build a box. I worked only 7 months with David Lynch before he taught me how to take the lid off. And that's David. You see it on the screen here. I mean, that's a masterful performance from Kyle up there, and everybody. And you can't do that. I think David went through life seeing everything in CinemaScope. It's just that interesting to him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, I mean, like hearing that too, it just truly, and knowing too the tight TV schedule and tight budget you guys are dealing with, it's truly remarkable what he was able to, and what you all were able to pull off.
Well, I will tell you this, if I may, because this is a Sabrina moment. When we got into post, real post, David was going to do the things that, the special effects, things that only he would know what he wanted to do there. And now watch Sabrina turn shades of red and white. I think we spent the first 3 months or 3 weeks or whatever it was. See, they shot from September to April something, right? And we had to deliver September 1st. That's 18 hours of film. That's 9 2-hour movies in 1 year. That's a big deal. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to open the picture. And Sabrina would come and say, guys, how are we doing on the movie? Well, we're not there. We're trying to figure out how to start the thing. It was, once you get into it, though, you get into it. You set the groove, and off you go.
And I just want to say, I remember Duwayne directed an episode from the first Twin Peaks back in the 90s. And it was, as a crew guy, it was one of the more enjoyable episodes because he's such a nice guy. And again, he's got, just like David, an understanding of how to put together everything. Everything's in his head. I know how it's going to go, blah, blah, blah. So, enjoyable experience, enjoyable man. Duwayne Dunham.
I have such a nerdy question for you, George, because I'm fascinated by the fact that like Ray is like kind of playing Mr. C and like his sort of involvement in the plot. He goes from having such a horrified reaction to watching what Mr. C is going through, like with the woodsman coming around and like reviving him or whatever. And then when he's in the car, he just describes it as like, yeah, he's got some help. Like, it's so fascinating, because I have no idea where this guy's at, like how is this guy perceiving the magic of this world? And you know, like, clearly, like, knows there's some sort of doppelganger situation afoot. Like, were you thinking about that at all when you were playing the character? Like, where was Ray at in the sort of cosmology of, like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer, you just asked there, because that puts me in a little bit of the perilous area of maybe disclosing some things that I discussed with David that I think I will keep to myself. But I did get clarity on some things, and he, you know, we knew what was going on, and I do think it's an interesting moment when you realize that I maybe have a deeper understanding of what's going on than maybe the way I'm acting in the diner would lead one to believe, right? So without telling you what the boss told me, I maybe asked him to tell me a couple places about maybe where I was lying and maybe I was telling the truth, and maybe we talked about somebody with the initials GB. And yeah, I mean, I knew what was going on, and David really wound me up, you know, especially that night that you're talking about for the car. And he told me that we had to get it together because, you know, I wasn't finished.
It's such a good, thank you for your, I told Sabrina before this I wasn't gonna ask any what does it mean questions, and there was one. But you told me I could. I just don't want to, because it's like the most annoying thing about being a Twin Peaks fan is like, what does the ring do? I don't understand. Mr. Ray Wise, well, I just had the experience. I was backstage talking to Chrystabell, and the door opened, and your head just popped through, and you said, hello. Which might be the greatest thing that ever happened. I'm never gonna have children, and I don't need to, because that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. What was I gonna say to you? Oh yes, something even more ridiculous. Your role in The Return is so fascinating, because I think when we meet you, it feels almost like this familiarity of like, oh, like, yeah, he wants help finding his daughter, and then by the end it's like, don't find this dude's daughter, like, leave her be. Don't fracture Laura's identity even more. I guess I'm disappointed you didn't get to sing in The Return. And what I wanted to know, and I thought about
As
this
much as I was disappointed.
if you could have sang any song in Twin Peaks: The Return, what would it be? This is the only question I prepared for the
Any
record.
song?
Any song. If like David came up to you day one and he was like, we need you to perform, you know, the new Leland Palmer tap dancing, you know, Mares y Notes, what would it have been?
It was a very good year. You know, when I was 17,
Oh yeah.
it was a good year back in 1990. We're back in the dark ages, the first season of Twin Peaks. Yeah. Good year. And I wanted it to be more in the third season. And I remember talking about it with David a few times and hinting around, you know, as we actors sometimes do. And I had been saying for months before they made the announcement there would be a third season. I'd been saying I thought there would be a third season, and I'd been saying it all over town. I think Mark was really kind of pissed off at me for doing that. David didn't care really. He thought it was kind of cool that I would do that. Anyway, I went to a retrospective at the Orange County Museum of Art for David, and, you know, some of his artwork, and we sat together that night and at the banquet, and when we talked about Twin Peaks coming back. I said, well, David, what do you think? You know, there's a rumor swirling around town that there's going to be a third season, and what do you think? And he said, well, the town is still there, Ray. So I said, wow, that's great, yeah. The town is still there, but I'm dead. We can work around that. So I figured he's really going to work around it. I got this call on my phone a few weeks later, and I wasn't there to answer it, the machine did, and then I played the call on the machine, and it went something like this. It was, if this is Ray Wise, this is David Lynch here. We're going back, Ray. Call the office. So I called the office, and yes, we are going back. There's going to be a third season, and I think I'm in it. So I was hoping that he might go with one of the ideas that I mentioned to him at the art museum, that Leland had a twin brother, Leonard Palmer, and he comes to town to find out what happened to his brother, why he died and how he died, and the mystery behind his death. And I thought, wow, you know, they could really take off with that story, and it would be great. I could play two characters, and you know, like Kyle got to do. You know? and also, you know, it would be a great thing. I'm losing my train of thought because I'm thinking about Kyle now, and it always throws me. Anyway.
So handsome.
Yes. Yeah, twin brother. Yeah, Leonard. Leonard. And yes, and it would have been a great thing, but David didn't go for it, and.
But are you going to sing for us? I think is what we want to
Yeah,
know.
well, I was really trying to pimp you to sing a song. You could sing it as Leland or Leonard, or
Oh, Leonard was a terrible singer. he couldn't sing good. It was awful. Leland had the voice in his family. He took after his mother. Lenora. I just made up the whole thing. This is great. And I told David this stuff, you know, but... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was amazing. I mean, I hope somebody goes and makes like the whole Palmer family fan film now. I mean, it's right there.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
From your mouth to whoever could do it.
Yeah. Amy, Candy is one of the most fascinating. You just never know what's gonna come out of her mouth at any given moment, and it's like she's staring thousands of miles away with every line she says. Can you just talk a little bit? What did you and David discuss like when preparing for that role? Because she's so it could so easily just be like a I don't know, like a bad ditzy character, but she's got such a sweetness and a purity to her. She almost feels like kind of almost like Girl Dougie in that way. Like what were the conversations around developing Candy?
Thanks, Vera. It's funny because you said you never knew what was going to come out of her mouth. As an actress, I didn't either until the last minute most days when it would be whispered in my ear. The scripts, the pages started off so small, and then I would be told, well, we're going to add another scene, or we're going to do another, or there's another day. So we just kind of kept growing and growing. And our first conversation, he said, you know, she's so kind and dumb as a brick with it. And I thought, well, no, maybe she's not dumb. Maybe she's smarter than everyone. So I played him, didn't I? So I think she was it's such a gift to get to play her because she's just kindness. And as David said, there's no badness in it, there's no meanness. So we were taking what would be perceived as quite a sexualized character, and she was completely desexualized. She was just kind and loving and just cared about everyone. And just, you know, when she hits him in the face that time, like the pain of hurting someone.
It's so bad. It's one of the most devastating sequences in the whole series, because it's just, I don't know, and it's so beautiful getting to see the heart of those brothers too, and I feel like she's really the kind of pathway.
She is, and I think I watched that with you guys the other night, and it was, I don't even laugh when I see it. I was really upset watching her, but I'm glad that it came out as funny. But the gift of playing her, just playing that level of kindness, and how the scenes, because I rewatched some recently, and how we were just teed up for success, because there was always this horrible, frightening, terrorizing content, and I would watch it through the eyes of my mum, who's in her 80s, and she would watch it alone at night, you know, at 11 o'clock at night in Ireland, and I would just think, oh my God, the terror, and I was watching and thinking, my poor mum watching this, and then we would have these scenes come in that were just light, and that gift that he gave us is the gift that keeps giving, along with everyone here. I mean, I'm just so happy to see all of these faces. They're just the kindest, funnest bunch. And we've all done stuff since, and it doesn't matter what films, what TV shows, whatever you do, this is the conversation that comes up, and boy, I'm personally so grateful to have that in my life. That feels like a line out of the movie, actually, but I do feel so grateful to have been given that gift of kindness.
We're so thankful for you all for sharing it with us. I know for me, it's a show that has shaped I don't know that I would have come out if it wasn't for Twin Peaks. I don't know if I would have gotten into transcendental meditation, and just, it's a show that I revisit when I feel horrible, when I feel good and I'm celebrating. It's been so beautiful sharing it in a crowd of people on such a giant screen. I mean, I think most of the people in the audience didn't realize until tonight that right after Margaret passes away, it cuts to a shot of Sheriff Truman just staring at pictures of fish, just JPEGs of fish on his laptop. It is like seeing that huge, like what a gift we all got tonight. Just hearing like the laughs like echoing throughout, like as people were like, oh yeah, he's looking at like a bass. Let's get a few audience questions. Yes, you were the first hand I saw.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So this is my first time watching this show, because I've seen the first 2 seasons, but I'd never seen the return. So it was really awesome to see on the big screen, so thank you so much for that. And your show has influenced every show that I loved. Gravity Falls, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. There's so many things from this series that's in all my series. So it's incredible. But my question is for you, because I'm a first AD and a line producer. Since there was a script that was set up, but then they kept adding it, how did you make it work so well?
Well, that's to you, so.
Well, you know, one of the things David wanted and said up front to Scott and I, Scott's the very first person who started working after David and I started, right? And one of the first things David said was he wanted to be able to experiment every day, and we had to be ready to shoot whatever we wanted, or he wanted, every day. We weren't able to do that all the time, but we did try. So that was one of the things that we had to just be prepared for. So that's, you know, and plus we had such a great, not just Scott, but the entire AD team was amazing, you know? So it was just a really great group.
Can I just add, if you're line producing an AD, one of the great things with working with David is creating the vibe on the set, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, that there is a really good vibe. It's fun, yeah, and it's serious. Everybody comes and is ready to do the work. Yeah, and that's magic, and it's not easy to do. And being with David for so long, it just was really fun for me to come to work and help create that feeling where we all can do great work.
Can I jump in for a sec? I mean, the way David and I connected was always sense of humor. And obviously, David's got a great sense of humor. I mean, it's coming off the screen and the sheets. But to Scott's point, it's a fun atmosphere, it's a creative atmosphere, and yeah, you're always gonna have time, and you're always gonna have a little bit of, stress there, but mostly it's just fun, and you're feeling creative, and like you said, it's a great vibe.
Can I just add? I've worked with Scott twice though, and I have to say, you know, there are tons of behind the scenes footage that you can see, and Scott is in them. You create such a happy space. I mean, your face, you're just happy. I mean, you see Scott first thing in the morning, he's just smiling as big at the end of the day. And he's just so fun and cute to be around. And, you know, I know David did create that lovely space, but you, no matter even when he was stressed or he was, you know, up here or he was down there or wherever, you were a constant happy place for everyone. And I would encourage you to look at some of the videos because it's really good.
Just a bunch of sweeties up here. Just a bunch of sweet hearts up on stage right now. Yes, somebody on this side? No, nobody's on that side. Yeah, somebody said, yeah, you right there, in blue, front row.
Yeah, I'm going to translate for him right now. So I'm just curious to ask all of you, do you mind sharing with me hard of hearing myself, and I wear hearing aids also. So I was just curious why he chose to become hard of hearing in the character in the show. I'm not offended. I'm just curious.
So why was Gordon Cole hard of hearing? Do any of you?
I always thought that it was just something funny for David to do. You know, just to add a layer to that character that was funny. Because when we were doing the first season, it was just all we could do to not laugh off camera. Dale Cooper, screaming at the top of his lungs. It was great. You know. It's just, you get into the distinct, one-of-a-kind nature of what David's all about. And that's, putting little touches on characters and making something just a little off that, will make it special.
There's a real continuity. Just as a fan, I had nothing to do with the show. I've just watched it. It's a lot. There's such a continuity of people with different bodies, different, the first trans person I ever saw on a television show was Twin Peaks. I think somebody like Michael Anderson or the even, when we meet Ray, there's two people in the corner, that are, one of them's, I believe, in a wheelchair. There's definitely a continuity of differently abled people and different types of bodies in the show. And it's, I think, one of the things that's so cool, because it never feels like it's punching down to me either. It just feels like texture and what makes it feel like this real world.
And I'll say, too, with casting, David, a lot of the people he cast, even in this, they were extras, from extras casting, not coming in through speaking roles. But David was always looking for very interesting faces and very interesting a feel from a person. He didn't like a plastic kind of, actress, typical, things. He thought that the generic kind of good look thing, he was always looking for something different and special and something that really spoke to him. So, I think that's how real world is, right? And it's David.
Another question. Yes, you right there in the middle there.
Right here?
I think so. It's so bright.
George kind of alluded to this with some things David told him, but for anyone really, I'm curious, since we don't expect David to give us, the exact answer stated out loud, but if you went to him with a question and said, hey, what is the deal with my character, this backstory, or even what's the Blue Rose all about, how much information would he give you?
Well, in the very beginning, I'll tell you, in the room, before we went to the diner, he pulled me aside, and we sat on this fur bench, and the most direct that he was, he said, "You are such a fucker." You're such a fucker. And when we get there, you're the only one who can fuck with this guy. So do it. Oh man, I could not wait to get to this diner to give him what he wanted. And I sat down, and it was ready when I got there. This was new for me. We got there, we were ready to go in the diner, and I remember as soon as we started, he bullhorned me, and he said, "If you fuck with him that much, he's gonna fucking kill you." And it was the greatest because I don't know, I felt like with everything, and this made a lot of sense for me with my character, especially being able to reflect on it. When it was over, he gave me enough rope to hang myself with. In almost every scene. So that's going to be my answer.
Sort of on that subject, I've never worked on anything where I knew very less, you know, before we started, right? Like we got all these scripts, and I would get the script for my scene, and that would be redacted. Like basically just my lines, you know, would be what I would say. I wouldn't even know anything that was going on. At the end of the day, I'd hand it to Sabrina and she'd shred them, I guess, or something, put it in a bag. But so it was kind of mind-blowing to like know so little, but just trust David so much that he had a vision, and that I just had absolute and complete trust in him. And that was so freeing. It was so freeing to not have to overthink anything, to just kind of try things and whatever. And then if it was going in some direction, he might come back and say, you know, say this or do this, you know. And I remember on one, like when they were arresting me in, I guess I was 14, I guess, right? You know, I had to say, you're making a big mistake. And I didn't know if they were or not. I thought they actually might be making a mistake, and we did a few takes of it, and then I said, hey David, what if I do it like a threat? Like, you're making a big mistake, you're gonna be sorry. And he goes, yeah, do it like that, do it like that. And you know, but he had let me sort of do it however, until it was time to sort of do it that way. And at the end of that take, he said, beautiful, which is all you ever wanted to hear, right? All you wanted to hear was beautiful. And just straight into my heart. Anyway, hope that answers it.
Just, if I could say real quick, I do remember, because I love hearing this from my castmates of how we all felt like we were able to trust David, which, you know, is such an amazing environment, because, you know, you can be free and spontaneous, and it's so wonderful. And I remember when I first started, I said to Kyle, you know, man, you know, I had this cool thing I was gonna try, and I had this other idea, and damn, man, and I just was worried. And he was still all black contact up and everything. He said, boss always gets what he wants. And I was like, of course he does. I was like, yeah, that's a good boss, you know.
And David and I spent weeks discussing the backstory for Man in the Urinal. Weeks, hours, every day going over the backstory.
I think that's a wonderful note to go on. Let's give it up again for the casting